candid conversations, unfiltered opinions, and humor with Abeg Vex Podcast.
Hello, welcome to our episode today. So I have with me a very interesting guest. His name is Parker Dean. Parker is a stand-up comedian based in LA. So Parker is also the founder of Off the Cuff Consulting. And he's done communication style coaching for the last 4-ish years. And he's going to talk to us how he uses his career as a stand-up comedian to actually coach and train people in communication. So another episode where you're going to learn a thing or two or find this unique individual, somebody that you may want to work with. So let's welcome Parker Dean. Hi, Parker.
Thank you so much. Hi. Thank you so much, Idongesit, for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming. I'm grateful you're able to be here. So we're going to take a journey with you. Walk us through it as much as you possibly can. Where you started, how you got here, why you're still doing this.
Well, where I'm currently sitting is very interesting. This is not my usual background for meetings and podcasts. I just moved apartments, so in an interesting period as it is. But basically how it started, I've done live theater for a very long time. I've been on stage in one form or another, whether that's choir, whether that's an independent movie. I've been in one of those, a couple of short films, plays, musicals, all of it since I was 8 years old. So I've been doing this for quite some time. Stand-up is my passion. It's what I love to do. I've been doing that we got started in July of 2022. So the recording of this video, we're about 2.5 years in. Mm-hmm. And that's something I always wanted to do. It just took me, I think, quite a long time to actually get the courage to step up on stage. But I've done a lot of theater things for a very long time. And about 4 years ago, I was kind of in a spot. COVID had hit, and I was in a spot where, I think and a lot of people were, where we didn't quite know what was going to happen next. We didn't know where the world was kind of headed and stuff. So I don't know. I was networked with some pretty wealthy people. I had a pretty good business network established for myself at that point. And I don't know what did it, but I got this idea in my mind because I had just taken improv lessons. I had gone to the Groundling School, which if anybody researches where the Groundling School is at, you'll see kind of the accolades. There's a lot of alums from there who've gone on to the show Saturday Night Live and stuff. So it's a really prominent improv and comedy school. So it probably had something to do with the fact that I had just been taking a class there. But I just got it in my head, man, it'd be really fun for a lot of these business people that I know to do improv exercises, because I see that whenever I go and I'm in a corporate environment. I remember when I first joined college, they had a welcome day or whatever. And then they put everybody in different rooms, like all the freshmen. And then they did like icebreaker exercises and warm up exercises. And I recognized that was pretty normal, I guess, for special days for companies, whether it was, a monthly meeting or whether it was a big seminar that a company would do. They would do different out of the box, I guess you could say, or what's the word I'm looking for? They would do kind of out there exercises, something you wouldn't really see in a business world. So I was like, I wonder if there's something here to teach these exercises that I would do, that all of us would do really before you would go out on stage, to perform a live theater show. These exercises that we would do in class, these exercises that we would do when I took a whole semester long improv class in college because I have a theater degree. And so, I just wondered, is there something here? And it turns out there very, very much is. So I teach predominantly communication, anything from storytelling to being a better public speaker, removing the ums and the uhs from your language. I work with a lot of people who want to be better at networking, who want to make friends, who want a better social circle, as well as people who want better romantic relationships. So it's everything under the sun, communication wise, is what I teach. And it's been an amazing journey. I've taught at this point well over 800 people. And I usually will work over Zoom. So I've had the fortunate pleasure of working with people from a lot of different countries. So I've worked with people from 30 plus countries. And I would have never thought that this would have been a thing that would take me as far as it has, and would be a thing that would have really helped so many people with so many areas of their life and communication. Yet here we are, very, very grateful to be able to do this.
That is beautiful to hear. And, kudos to modern technology. The reach is beautiful. You say you teach people to take the M's and the R's from vocabulary. Those are like the spices of communication, don't you think?
The ums and the uhs?
Yes.
I mean, if you look at spices as a thing that blows out your palate and makes you not want to continue to eat the food, then maybe. It depends. Look, there's a difference between that's a purposeful as opposed to someone who quite literally, which is the people who usually work with me, they quite literally lack the words, and that or that is a substitute for scarcity, or I guess if you want to look at it from a mindset perspective, or is a substitute from I'm really nervous right now. It's much more, it reads worse to an audience.
So it's much more, if it's purposeful, it's strategically placed as opposed to a filler for not having words. Okay.
Yeah, I work predominantly with getting rid of those annoying filler words like I personally think that communication is best when it is deliberate and you're able to just get all the words you want to get out of your mind, as opposed to having to use any sort of filler words because you don't know what you're going to say next. It's better, in my opinion, to just take a pause. Just pause. Who cares? It'll be all right, So.
Yeah. I think awkward silence is something that people dread, especially in the business space. Mm-hmm. So what is your take on that?
It depends what the context is. If it's a meeting I work with sales people. So if it's a meeting with a client that doesn't generally, if they've agreed to be on the phone with you, if I'm working with a closer, for example, and they have a call scheduled with that client, they're not going to hang up the phone on you just because you had to take a 3-second pause. So, for example, a lot of times salespeople will pause because the client asks them a question, they don't quite know how to answer it, or it's going to take them a minute to find the information to give to the client. The product that I'm buying, does it come in 12 feet or does it come in 10 feet? Hold on. Like that's not a good way to respond to that, as opposed to, one moment, let me look that up. All right, it looks like we have the product in both 10 and 12 feet. I know you mentioned you wanted something a little shorter. Something like that is much, just pause. Yeah. As far as a business setting that's not a sales call, or like maybe you're giving a presentation at work. Yeah, I guess it could be, I totally can understand how it would come across if someone just paused and didn't know what to say, and then they recognized that the room was looking at them and that made them pause a little bit more. It's best just to take a deep breath and keep moving forward the best that you can. Here's what I'll say. The pausing or the likes, the ums, the uhs, all of the stuff that if I assume people are listening to this podcast, they probably are interested, as you said at the beginning, in learning something, probably a bit interested in self-analysis. They're probably pretty self-aware people. What I will say to those of us of the self-aware population is it probably looks way worse to you than it does to your audience. When you're on stage, time dilates. In that, if I feel like I paused for 30 seconds, it might have only been 5 in actual real time when you watch the recording. So don't get so in your head about making a mistake and people seeing that you've made a mistake. Believe it or not, people actually audiences are actually pretty forgiving. And why not just take a pause instead of freaking out and ruining your entire presentation when you could just take a deep breath. It's all right. It's all right. You're going to be okay.
Yeah. I mean, breathing is overrated and stuff. So like, why bother breathing? Because, people notice, right?
I don't know. I mean, my hands go numb on stage when I don't breathe. I think that's true. I tell people that all the time. Like, what's a big tip for public speaking? Literally make sure before you get on stage, your breathing is good, because if not, crazy things will happen. You'll just have shortness of breath. Your fingers will start to tingle, because your blood is not circulating enough oxygen through your body. It's crazy what the body does when it perceives itself to be around a physiological threat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all blood shunting. Is shunting from the lesser important organs to the
Yeah.
internal,
Yeah.
the important stuff in the middle. So I just Great. So when we're
It's all right. I'm sure people are going to catch me during this podcast as well. It's all right.
I love it. We're talking about business owners when you're pitching to, say, a new client, or, for instance, when we're talking about investors and you find yourself in a room where you have to pitch your idea, either pitching competition or an elevator pitch of sort. That is a boiler room. I'm speaking from a place of experience, right? So that's a boiler room for your nervous system to just freak all the way out. So even if you have this thing memorized to a T, there is something about that moment of having to basically show your expertise and your genius in words that just collapses, just folds in. So what is the thing that you can offer a person who might find themselves in that stressful situation? It's not meant to be stressful, but it is stressful nonetheless, right? So what can a person do, a business owner, a founder, do in that situation?
Well, the first thing you do, and I've said this before, is talk to people before your presentation if possible. Particularly the people that you're going to be giving the presentation to. So if there is a moment, you show up early, maybe you show up 15 minutes early and other people are there early as well, if possible. Now it depends on the established relationships and the context of what you're doing, obviously, but if possible, at least talk to the people that you're going to be giving the presentation to, because that automatically breaks that ice cold wall of nervousness of, oh, these are people. These are people. And it really does readjust your expectations. And someone who's very nervous, like you said, boiler room, it's a great word to describe the intense psychological stress that someone can go through right before giving a speech that might help them tremendously in their career or not, right? That's a big, big moment.
Mm-hmm.
I find that if I tell someone, you can go, whoever you're giving the presentation to, if it's HR or your boss, whoever it is, you can go talk to them before the presentation. They're like, no, I'm too nervous. I have to focus on my presentation. It's like, that's the exact opposite of what you should be doing, because the more you're talking, the easier it's going to be to start talking again. It's actually the jarring moment of going from being silent and having all of that stress built up inside to actually externalizing your thoughts. That's where the fumble happens, because you're going from one state to another, as opposed to if you just walk in and you're able to just start talking to your boss. Hey, it's great to see you. Really looking forward to the presentation. Whatever it is, however you choose to go about that, that makes it so much easier, believe it or not, once you start. And if you can't talk to them, at least talk to the other people that are on the outside of the room. Talk to the secretary. Talk to somebody. Get on the phone with a friend. Just start talking. And that shift from walking, if you're not giving a presentation, to giving a presentation will be eased if your mouth has already been moving. So that's the number one tip I give for anybody who's worried about public speaking in general, but particularly for a very stressful speech or stressful presentation, like the boiler room analogy that you've given. Past that, I find personally that reading from it depends on, again, the context. There's so many of these different variables when it comes to speeches like this. Reading a speech that you're holding in your hand is a bit of a crutch, and it's not a good way of delivering a presentation. It's much better if you can deliver that presentation without a speech in your hand, without note cards in your hand, maybe even just being able to talk directly to the people and then motioning maybe behind you at the PowerPoint or something that is behind you. I find that's the best way to go about it. If anyone is reading off of note cards or reading a speech and they're in a situation like what you're describing, if I just can't get it right, this is really stressful, it's because you're probably not connecting with the people you're talking to. Your eyes are more focused on getting it right as opposed to sending a message. And you should be much more focused on sending the message. Now, if someone is trying to, like you said, you got it completely memorized and still it's really, I'm really, really nervous. What I would recommend is actually the opposite of what I just said, which is get a small note card and put in, I usually just do a bulleted list. This is how I memorize stand-up things and how I would also memorize entrances and exits for stage when I was doing live theater still. You just put a bulleted list of all of the main points of what you're saying to where if your eyes fell upon that note card, it would know, oh, I'm supposed to talk about this unique project that I've been working on, or this milestone for our team, this particular one. Oh, okay. And then you can go into that. Having just that as a little cue for your mind is super, super helpful. The last thing I would recommend outside of these other two that I have is run an improv exercise. I teach this. I run a solo improv exercise. These improv teachers, these theatrical improv teachers think I'm crazy when I say you can run a solo exercise, but you can. You run a solo, it's like a warm-up exercise for your mind. This is what I recommend my salespeople, my guys who do sales right before they do sales, because it helps you. It tremendously eases the psychological burden of having to give a presentation. So I would just say run a solo improv exercise.
Yeah, all great tips, all great advice. Let's talk about affect, because this is another place where people fold. So being on a phone call with somebody is very different from either seeing the person face to face or being in a room with this person you're presenting to. And feeding off of the energy of the people that you're presenting to can also have an effect on maybe your presentation. Some people present very intimidating. Some people have a flat affect, right? And some people are relaxed, like, show me what you got. Even on a show like Shark Tank, right? There's some of the panelists that are more approachable in a sense than
yes,
others,
for sure.
Right? And in a situation like that, what can a presenter do? What can a person do when either you're faced with one person who has a flat affect or a not so approachable affect, or a room full of people with different presentation in their affects?
So we're in an interesting situation right now. I've never heard the word affect used in terms of, so the point that I'm making is this is an excellent situation for anyone who's watching. This is like you're a salesperson and you get asked a question and you don't quite understand it. You could go about it by saying, so the affect, like you could do that. Or I literally could just do what I'm doing right now, which is just a teaching moment. It's like, I see it, right? So I could just do what I'm going to do right now. And so when you say affect, do you mean someone's enthusiasm or someone's how they come off to the presenter when you say affect?
How they come off, their facial expression.
Gotcha.
Yes, that's their affect. Are they just, arresting, what face? Or are they kind of like almost relaxed, not completely smiling? Or are they just, while you're here, get to it kind of a thing?
Gotcha. So then for everyone who's watching, I'm going to answer this question along the lines of demeanor is how I hear that. Someone's demeanor, or you said facial expression, which is something I can talk about. You are looking for the audience to be with you. This is one of the most difficult lessons that I teach because anybody who's ever done live theater knows exactly what I'm talking about when I say that. Anybody I think who's done stage stuff in general, I think will understand what I'm saying, but definitely someone who's done live theater. This is a lesson that resonates. People are with you in a variety of ways, though. When I say with you, I mean they are paying attention. More or less. More or less, it's a bit more nuanced than that. Like I said, a bit harder for me to explain if no one has done live theater. But the point is, throughout the course of a stage play, there are different moments where you expect, for the most part, an audience is going to react in a certain way. If I say this line, it's probably written to be funny, so I can expect that there's going to be a laugh after this line. If I am in the middle of giving a dramatic monologue where there's a big reveal, maybe I expect that the audience is going to gasp or there's going to be something like that. Basically, what I'm listening for as an actor while I'm delivering these lines is I'm registering the emotional response, I suppose you could say, from the audience. And in that, if I see a big response from the audience, I know that they're with me, meaning they're engaged with what I'm doing. If I don't hear it as much or it's spread out, like someone laughs and another person laughs, whatever, it's like they're not necessarily with me, which means I might have to slow down what I'm saying so that way they can understand. There are different ways you can play with that. So the point is, you always want to make sure an audience is with you. Having said that, as I said at the beginning, There are different ways an audience will show that they are with you. The easiest way and the universal rule that you can tell if someone is with you, even if they might not be giving you as positive or cheery of a demeanor or an affect, they're just a little flat, are their eyes on you? That's it. Are their eyes on you? And if when I say they, it's a group of people. If a couple of people are giving you more, focus more on them. Make sure you're looking everybody in the eye as you go across. Like, let's say there's 3 people that I'm presenting to. So there's one person here, another person here, and another person here. Then as I'm talking, I'm going to alternate what I'm saying. But then if I have something funny to say, let's say the camera right now is the person who is a little bit more, they have a more positive attitude, a better demeanor. Then what I'm going to do is when I say a joke necessarily, I might say it right to here. And then I would go back to looking around. I'm going to give equal attention to all 3 people that I'm talking to, but I also am going to, for the positive parts of what I'm saying, I'm going to feed more off of what the positive person is giving me. Great comedy host, his name's Sean Connor, that I know. He always says at the beginning of every show that I'm in with him, he says, the energy that you give the performers, they're going to give right back to you. And so, yeah, I just find the people within the audience that are willing to give you that. And if nobody is, just register, make sure that their eyes are on you at least. And from there, do your best, push forward, and recognize that it quite literally might have nothing to do with you. They might low-key be a little boring, or they might have had a long day. You never know what's going on with people, but it's not everything is your fault. If you're doing your best, you've memorized that speech, that boiler room speech to a T, and you go in there and they're just giving you nothing back. Well, I mean, you did your best. You memorized as much as you could. You knew everything that you could. When they asked you a question, you gave your best answer to it. You ran your improv exercises before. You tried to talk to people before. If they didn't give you anything, it might literally have nothing to do with you.
Great point. So just going still on the affect journey a little bit. Something that I have done, and I see a lot of other people have done. However, I have been very conscious of the environment that I do this, because not every environment is built the same, and not everybody within an environment is built the same. To break ice, people have been known to crack a joke, say something funny, or, just before the actual business of presentation has gone on, just extend a pleasantry like, hi, how's everybody doing? Today's great that we're here. Not every environment, again, accepts that or would respond to that. You can say good morning, and just a few people do respond. Do you find that that is enough to derail somebody from, say, all this presentation or preparation they did before the presentation? And how can a person guard against that? You've actually said a lot about it. It's not always your fault. It's not about you. But for a person who depends on that feedback and that involvement of the crowd. So what is the one thing a presenter, other than not taking it personal, can do? Because I've seen comedians kind of like, retort back at kind of a lukewarm crowd, like, okay, then forget you. I'm just going to do my job. So how can somebody do that professionally without coming off as aloof?
Well, my question to you would be, this seems to be an area that you have a lot of experience in. Can you give me a little bit of context for areas that you've been in where you've had to give presentations and the audience has been a bit cold?
Mark, did. It's all around a business. Okay, so I'm in healthcare.
Yeah.
Healthcare is a very serious business, right? With literally life and death. Not everybody is usually soft. I'll use the word soft. It's not really the word I want to use, but that's the only thing that came to mind. Interpersonal skills is not something that everybody cares to show at all times, especially on the business end of things. And we live in a world where it's kind of like closed-ended question. I'll ask you this, get out. Okay, next, right?
Okay.
So in those kind of environments, especially even with pitching to investors, okay, in that space, it can be dicey. Right? It is
sure.
not, is not like, pitching a video game idea or, whatever. It's something that could possibly lead to productivity issues. So, yeah.
Yeah. The retorts from thank you for the context, by the way. The retorts from a comedian, I'm not too much of a fan of.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. It is very emotional. And it can be, I've seen it happen. And it's funny because if you look at my clips, I have a couple of really funny clips where I have a response to a negative response that an audience gives me. Let's say I'll bring all this together to answer your question.
Okay.
I'm not a huge fan of comedic retorts in that you guys suck. This audience sucks. They're not giving me what I want, so they suck. I said this joke. I worked really hard at it, and they're not giving me the laughter that I deserve. That I have seen that happen. Comedians can get very, very tied to audience response, which how could they not, right? We're in the business of laughter. But I've seen comedians, instead of what I'm about to recommend to you, they just think, well, this audience, everything is they're wrong, everything is bad, and you know what, they suck. It's like, that's fine. You guys don't want to laugh, then I'm just going to do my job anyway. It's a very like a backlash. It's an emotional backlash, and I'm not a fan of that because I think it torpedoes the ability of the comedian to win the audience back. You got to meet them where they're at. This is the very first rule of communication. If you work in a field that, like healthcare, that is dealing quite literally with people's lives, yeah, people might not be very warm off of the jump because this is whatever technology you're pitching or whatever you're doing. This might be very serious. This might be very consequential for the lives of a lot of different people. And so there has to be, I think, a level of, if you want to be effective, this is not about being funny. This is not about creating a warm atmosphere. There's a lot of different goals you can have when you go into a boiler room like that. But if the goal is to win and to pitch the investor, if you want to be effective, the best thing you can do is not try to make it warm and cuddly. You meet them where they're at. And there's the point of this is there's a way once you do that to lead it into more positive territory. This is the standard improv rule of yes and. Yes and, meaning, and I teach it a little bit of a different way. Yes and is what they'll teach you at a theatrical improv school like the Groundlings or Second City, meaning everything that happens to you in a scene, you always should say yes and to it, right? If someone says in an improv scene, it's two actors on stage, and actor one says to actor two, wow, it's really hot inside this coffee shop. Actor two, since they're making it up on the spot, a lot of improv, actor two can't say, well, it's actually not very hot. It's actually quite cold. I feel really cold. No, he is saying no to what she recommended him. So he instead should say, man, it is really, really hot. I hope that they fix the air conditioner. And you say you add on some value, you push the storyline forward. In the same way, when you are in a situation like this, you do what I call, it's the same thing as yes and, I just have a little bit of a different way that I teach it, accept and engage. Accept and engage. The room is cold. Great. I guess I'm giving a cold presentation. That's fine. I can do that. And now that I've accepted that, then I'm going to find ways to let my personality show through once I have been willing as the performer not to make it about me. And I instead meet them where they're at, because a lot of comedians make it about them. They make it about them. And that's fine because an audience is there to see your story. They are there to hear your unique perspective. They are there to a certain extent to allow themselves to be led by you. But they have to know you first. They have to like you first to a certain extent. They have to at least be comfortable with you taking them on a journey. That's the thing with stand-up that I really believe in. And when it comes to giving a presentation, yeah, a person might be, it doesn't have to be your field necessarily. I'm sure there are other incredibly serious fields. It doesn't necessarily just need to be the field of healthcare. Maybe it's car manufacturing. You know, I had a student of mine who would give I can't say which one because we sign NDAs and, you know, I got to keep the privacy of my students. But I will say he worked for one of the top 3 car manufacturers in the U.S. and he had a prominent engineering position there. And so he'd give presentations to the executives there. And that's a pretty serious thing because they're going to deal with, are the cars going to function? Are we keeping people safe? Is the technology where it needs to be? It's a pretty serious environment. So when you go in there as well, you might not go in trying to get a warm response immediately off the jump. But if the room is cold, you can register that the room is cold, and then you can move from there. But you have to register it first. So you can have a very professional at the situation you're describing. Hi, how's everyone doing today? Good. I'm really excited to talk to you guys about X, Y, and Z. Let's get right into it. And then you just go into your presentation, and then they're like, okay. And then all of a sudden, when you start to say things and you don't get the emotional response you want, that once you have established, I don't want to say a level playing field, but a playing field of, I understand where you are at because you're my audience. I understand where you're at emotionally, and I'm vibing with you kind of on the same level. We're in the same place. Then once I say a joke or something and it doesn't hit it, I can say, and that I don't even know what a joke you would say is in that type of a situation, or something you would say to get a positive emotional response. But let's say you say something and then you go, and then you get nothing from the audience. Then you can say, it's all right, guys. Don't worry. Lunch is coming up in a half an hour. We're almost done. Whatever. And a line like that will go, oh yeah, they get, because we are hungry because lunch is going to be up in a half an hour. But that state of mind, the ability to have what, as I call it, a recovery line, or something that does, because that's my personality at least. I can't speak for you, but for me, my personality, that's exactly a line that I would use. And so, one of my greatest lines ever that I've used on several occasions when I lose my audience is I just tell them, oh, well, so I guess I've lost you guys now. What are we going to talk about now? While I'm on stage doing stand-up. If I say a joke that doesn't hit, I will literally say that. All right, well, now that I've lost you all, what do you guys want to do now? And that calling out of the truth of the moment really does seem to make an audience laugh. And it really does seem to focus and bring an audience back into presence. And those little moments are the ones where you let your personality show through. But it's important off the jump that you know your stuff in a presentation, you've memorized your script, if that's what it calls for. You have finished your presentation with whatever PowerPoint or video is, or working model, if you're in the engineering field, is going to be with you during the presentation. It's important that you've done your best. You've maybe done a warm-up, an exercise or two. You've tried to talk to people at the beginning if possible. You breathed, you're good. And from there, meet the audience where they're at. And then once you meet them where they're at, generally, they will give you a bit of license to lead them. But you don't start by leading them. You don't start by leading them. You start by meeting them where they're at and going from there. Maybe you get to a certain point where you're such a high up executive, you have such a great relationship with the other executives, and you go to give a presentation and they're already happy to see you. And from there, you can hit the ground running. But if they don't know who you are, they've never seen you before, you got to meet them where they're at. That's emotional social intelligence. That's them knowing that you understand them and are empathetic to where they're at.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah, you said a whole lot.
I did.
You did, and it's so refreshing to hear. And for the people listening, this is a great learning opportunity. Not everybody's born with the ability to be able to do this. People get training for it. Like Parker stated, he's had years of training with improv, and it's now helping people hone their presentation better. We are all teachable, and we need that guidance. So some people are born with it, which is great, right? The ability to reel people in very quickly and softly, or not softly, but, the ability to reel people in. Some people are born with it. Some people, have to get a little hand-holding along the way. So Parker, question to you. What has surprised you the most in coaching your clients? So from what I'm hearing is that, and this is quite easy, if you get to a position of being able to present to a group of people, you are on some level a leader, a manager, right? Somebody that has a lot of responsibility on their shoulder or working towards that. What surprises you a lot or has come up commonly with leading managers in presentation? So somebody has all these accolades, however, they still have a need to hone the ability to present.
Communication skills are great. Presentation skills are great. I don't know if they'll necessarily entail that someone inherently becomes a manager or people start to look at them. I want to make that clarification. I don't want anyone to work really hard on their presentation skills and then they don't get promoted and go, what the hell? He said right. at least for me and the people that I've worked with, the ones who are in those leadership roles do not think right before they're about to walk in and give a presentation, I have the entire world on my shoulders. If I screw this up, everyone is going to hate me. I am a leader. I need to look like I know what I'm talking about. Those are not at all the effective thoughts that are on their mind right before they give that presentation. Because if you are thinking that, number one, that's going to create, there's a lot of ways you can view a presentation. There's a lot of different thoughts that you can choose to have. There's, you can purposely set your mind to certain, there's the way, the point that I'm making is like, you don't want to think thoughts that are going to make you more stressed right before you go in. The people I've seen that are the best at it don't even think, that doesn't even enter into their mind that this is a big deal. And if I think these thoughts, if I screw up this presentation, then my team is going to think that I look bad. I have so much responsibility on my shoulders. The ones who are more natural at it, they're able to just flow in, do their thing, and dip out without giving much thought to it. I've had this experience where I'll regularly perform stand-up for people anywhere between an audience of maybe 50 people. I'm doing a show in Las Vegas, Nevada. At the end of the month, it's probably going to have anywhere between 100 and 150 people in it. It's at a nice comedy club in Vegas. I'm not thinking about right before I go out on stage, there's so many people here, I better get it right. So many people are depending on me. That is not a motivational factor for me. It doesn't help me. I've actually thought that because I have thought what you said there are a lot of people that are depending on me. So I'll purposely, just as a coach, I'll put myself in mental states like this because I know that my clients will be in it or whatever. And I tell you what, you look out at the audience and you think, oh my God, they're all here. And you allow your mind to slip into that state of everyone is depending on me. To me, that does not make me do better. I will tell you that. It does not make me a better comedian. It does not make me a better entertainer. And so I think the same thing goes for people in the business world. You don't have to put immense pressure on the fact that everybody is counting on you to get it right. I would choose to think other thoughts. And if those thoughts enter into your mind, I would choose to think different things like, okay, I better get this right. They're really dependent. Nope. Okay, what was I going to say in that presentation? And then I would force myself to read through and memorize my presentation. There's a certain quantity of thoughts a person can only have at one time. And so I choose to stall that off as much as I can. Now, there is a recognition of respect or love, I guess you could say, that you show to your team of, yeah, I'm doing this for you guys. I'm maybe the face of this team. Maybe I'm managing this group. And if I do really, really well, it's going to reflect really, really well on my team. There's definitely a certain level of respect that you need to show to that. I would find that I think what would help the most with easing that psychological stress would be having a very frank conversation with, depends on how big your team is, I guess. But let's say it's a team of 5 people. Let's just say that. You manage a team of 5 people. Why not talk to all 5 people individually and say, hey, I'm a little nervous for this presentation. What should I include in here? You've heard my speech before. If you haven't, maybe read it to them or your presentation. I'd like to go through this with you. Can you give me a little bit of feedback of things that you think I should get rid of or things that you think I should add in? And what that does is it gives a little bit of power and a little bit of agency to the people that are under you in the power structure. And what that's going to do is it's going to inherently mean presentation time comes around. If you do that for all 5 people, they're all going to be on your side and they're going to be rooting for you because they had a small say in maybe 5% of your presentation. So again, it's transitioning the spotlight from you to the other people. It's not necessarily about you. If you give them a little bit of a say, they're almost going to be living vicariously through you when you're giving that presentation because they said, oh, I like this, or, oh, I really wish you would have gone more into talking about this particular accomplishment that we did. Whatever it is that they have to say, oh, you sound a little quiet when you're talking. Now, when you sound confident, they're going to feel great because they told you that and they gave you that feedback. I would look for feedback from the team. As counterintuitive as that may seem, being in a management position, why not? I think it would make you feel better, and I think you would get a tremendous amount more of support from the people. And at the end of the day, if you are going to be representing the team, the thing that you definitely want in accordance with that is their support. You want them to be cheering for you. you know? So that's what I would say is the normal, a couple tips, a little bit of the average perspective that I get. You had asked me though at the beginning, something that surprises me when people are doing these presentations. My student that I mentioned earlier who worked at one of the top 3 car manufacturers here in the US, I helped him with a presentation that he had to give to some executives. I don't know if it was investors, but it was definitely some higher ups. It definitely affected his job's future. That's what I will say. It was a very important thing. And after he was done, he was pleasantly surprised that one of the executives, as they were walking out of the room, singled him out of everybody who had given a presentation that day and said, "Hey," I don't want to say his name. What's another name? "Hey, Tom, great work today," or something, and shook his hand and smiled over everybody else. And he was like, "Oh, I must have done really, really good," because he was singled out and given that attention. And that's what you want, because these presentations at the end of the day, as much as the world would be probably a better place if it was more meritocratic, meaning the people who did the work and were awesome got the job, that ain't how it works. There's a whole nother component of social dynamics and networking that goes into play with this. That's why I say at the beginning, if you're ever giving a presentation where you're a little bit nervous and you don't know what to do, talk and network with, to a certain extent, the people that you're going to be giving the presentation to, because there are people who give terrible presentations which still get promoted. How is that possible? Why is that the case? It's because they know how to play the game, the behind the scenes game that no one else does. It's not all meritocratic. It's not all, I did the best presentation, so I'm going to get promoted. No. It's the people who have great communication skills. For sure, you probably got to give a really solid presentation, but then it's also the networking aspect that takes place behind the scenes. So that was something that surprised him was, oh, I gave this really great presentation, but now I've been given a little bit of special attention from this executive, and now there's a way for me to kind of get in with him, so to speak, and I can work with him, and that's probably going to lead me to more money and a bigger promotion. So yeah, that's been the surprising thing is, guess what? It's not all about how great the presentation is, it's how good your people skills are too.
I'm so happy you put in that last piece, because people present and people learn and people pull out all the stops to make sure they present well, they dress well, they're well spoken, the PowerPoint is there, all the talking points are there. However, you can just go to the guy that went out last night with the executives for a drink, right? So
come on, Yeah.
That's how the world works. But, even if it doesn't work in this one room, it will work in another room. And the important aspect of this conversation that I took from it, and I'm hoping everybody else takes from it, is that you want to be prepared. You want to hone your skills. You want to not walk into a furnace, even if it's burning, and think it's a furnace. It is a furnace, but what is fire to you, right? So it's kind of like that mentality of not having a stressful situation overtake your nervous system. Because again, speaking your truth or speaking your thing in front of people and actually paying attention to their response to it, it's a full-time job. You're working, your brain is working overtime. So it's great. I absolutely love all the pointers you provided. But that last piece is something that you can't control. I had a guest on the other day that said they wished people understood the nouns. If you understand the nouns, life is so much easier. The nouns are things that you can't control. People, places, and things.
Mm-hmm. That's a great tip.
So you control what you can control. You've got the slide deck. It looks beautiful. You came out with your best looking outfit. You're well dressed, well groomed, and you smell well. Good. Don't smell like garbage juice, which is great. So you're here. You're doing your thing. The rest will figure itself out. If it doesn't work in this room, it will work in another room. So Parker, if somebody's listening to us and they're interested in working with you, whether they're founders that need to go out and do presentation for investors into their MVPs, or they're managers in, big companies and corporations who this presentation either is hinging on a bonus or a promotion or whatever, how can they find you, work with you, collaborate with you?
So right now I have a couple open spots left. I don't work with very many private students at a time. I don't know. I've worked with a lot of different private students in different times throughout my tenure teaching. And I find that just having a couple people that I really resonate with, that I know I can help them with what they want, which are all the steps that you said. So the point is that I'm saying, as of the recording of this, when it's released, I'm assuming I'm still going to have some spots open left for one-on-one students. And I'd recommend just checking out the links below to be able to do that. Idongesit, I'm going to make sure that I send you the correct links, but there's a website. I believe we're going to do consultotc.com. Okay. That is where someone can go and schedule a free consult. I work with people for free, meaning that the first session, to kind of feel it out, I do a free consultation, and then from there we go. If it makes sense to work together, we move forward from there. So if you guys want a free consultation, sit down with me over video chat, or if you're in the Southern California or Los Angeles region in person, I'm happy to do that as well. And yeah, we sit down together and we get your goals set and see if the improv exercises that I teach, and if I can help you with where you want to go, which most of the time, if people find me, I can. So yeah, I'd say check out consultotc.com, and then you check out the part on the website that says one-on-one coaching, or it says coaching. And then yeah, we do that.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. The screening process is very important, because not everybody can teach everybody, and not everybody can learn from everybody. So having that screening is very important, because yeah, it needs to be effective. So we will make sure everything Parker Dean is in the show notes, the website, socials, whatever he has. So if he has spots, you can see it when you click into the website.
Yeah.
The spots are not available after this episode is published. Keep an eye on it. If it's something that you absolutely think will be useful to you, even if there are no spots. Again, we're talking about communication, right? Communicate, send an email, send a chat. Hey, I was interested in this. When will another spot open, or spots open in the future? So you can, plan for it. He can also plan for it, Parker Dean, that is. So please, 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 if anything was useful to you, implement it. Share it. Let us know. Reach out to Parker. I would love to know if this was useful to you. I would love to know if there's anything that we both said, or mostly Parker said, that resonated with you, that you are going to take it into your practice of presentation, being your best self. So Parker, any last nugget? I like to ask for a golden nugget before my guests leave. Do you have any last golden nuggets for us?
To sum up what I said, we have an idea of how we want things to go, and most of that is a external projection of our internal self, meaning I think it's in humanity's nature to make it about us. I think one of the greatest things that you can do, particularly from a communication front, is step outside of that, is ignore the base impulse that most people have to make it about them and make it about your audience. And that's worked for me so far, and it's worked for everybody that I've worked with. So make it about the audience. What's the worst that can happen? You connect with people and you make them smile. Make it about them.
The horror. So that was so beautifully said. Thank you, Parker. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's not about you. Stop reacting. Stop being emotional. Parker said it didn't come from me. Parker said that. Stop being emotional. It's not about you. So thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful that you made time to be with us today, Parker.
No, thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Take care of yourselves, everybody. Let us know what you think. All right? Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Abeg Vex Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. It really helps us out. We'd love to hear your thoughts and continue the discussion. So join us on social media or drop us a message. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and keep pushing the boundaries of your world.